It started in November 1970 by a coup. Hafez al-Assad brought himself to be the president, and he managed to run the country by the fist. He raised the leader. He wanted to turn Syria to a monarchy and without being a king, and he raised the leader that called Bashar al-Assad, his first son. But he made a huge mistake and decided to drive with his Mercedes, it was in 94, 300 kilometers an hour into a wall. Didn't manage to survive that. And then he called the second option, Bashar. Bashar was an ophthalmologist in London. He had a good life, got married with asthma, wanted to stay there. There was no plan to run a country like Syria. But he had no other option, and he came to do it. And you know, the feeling that I have that he tried to prove something. And it's like maybe just imagination, but that he get up every morning and he looked to the mirror, and through the mirror talk with his father, and said, my father, I know that you thought that I'm not as good as the rest. I will prove you that I'm better than them, and you know what, I'm even better than you. He called the North Koreans and asked them, I want you to build a nuclear reactor in Syria. And it almost done, it almost succeeded. They actually built a copy of the reactor that they have in Yongbyon and built it in Deir ez-Zor in Syria. In January 2007, Israel found out. On September of that year, we destroyed it. 7 Israeli aircraft destroyed that reactor, and there was no response coming from Assad. And Israel in 2012 made a decision to build a new fence. The fence has motion sensors, video cameras, intelligent drones, bomber drones, and unmanned vehicles to patrol along it. Over there, that's a convoy of the UN. They will have probably a few vehicles behind them. Here, there's a military vehicle following that. So there's the Syrian army being in the area. We see the Russian military police. But to say that we see civilians, all over Syria barely see civilians using vehicles because they don't have enough fuel for that. Where they have gas, so it turns very expensive. It's mostly as a result of the sanctions on Iran, by the way. But here we barely see civilians left. Why? I would say that coming here till August 2018, things look very different. Different in a way that then we had 10% of the border from El Ahmadiyya, from the village here with the mosque, and getting all the way up toward Mount Hermon that was controlled by the Syrian regime. And all the way from the mosque down to the Jordanian border, the land was controlled by 54 different militias of rebels. And they used to fight. When we say rebels, here below us we had an organization that called themselves Iyad Tahrir al-Sham, the Front for the Liberation of Syria. Or we can just call it Al-Qaeda. They had black flags, they affiliated with Al-Qaeda. In the southern part of the Golan, we saw the Jaysh Khalid ibn al-Walid, the army of the chief of staff of the first place of Muhammad, or we can just call it ISIS. And let's look on a map of Syria from 2017. That was the peak when ISIS was the biggest. Controlling here, this is us, the blue it's the Israeli Golan, again 2017. And the red here, that's the Syrian regime that then controlled 18% of Syria. And 50% of the country was controlled by ISIS, in the gray here. Along this border, the situation changed on the 1st of August 2018. As a result of an effort of the Syrian regime coming together with the Russian Air Force and the Shiite militias that were involved, Russia had an agreement, an unofficial agreement with Israel, that they will get in. We won't see the same massacre as we saw in other parts of Syria, and they will make sure that the Shiite militias, even those that fight here, won't stay. They will keep them at least 85 kilometers from the border. And therefore we have to be prepared with the units that we already have here. So it all changed, the whole security conception changed since 2014. Today we have the best unit that the IDF can offer, that brought here to the Golan. We have the new fans that build with the motion sensors and the video cameras. We have the best intelligence units, is the one up there now in the clouds, other ones on Mount Hermon, and others that are serving here in the area.